In the vast and chaotic landscape of the internet, there exists a dark subculture, one that began with loneliness but mutated into something far more sinister. It's called incel culture. Short for involuntary celibate, the term originally described people, both men and women, who felt they were unable to form romantic or sexual relationships despite wanting them. It began as a space for support and connection, but over the years, it's come to represent something far more extreme. A toxic ideology rooted in misogyny, entitlement, and rage. Incel forums today are saturated with violent rhetoric, self-hatred, and deep resentment, not just toward women, but toward society at large. These online spaces have been linked to real-world violence, including mass killings. The language is coded, the memes are viral, and the influence is spreading to a younger generation. Through social media, algorithms, controversial influencers, and echo chambers, the incel mindset is no longer niche. It's becoming mainstream. This isn't just an internet phenomenon, it's a new form of radicalization, unfolding in real time. And understanding its history is crucial to understanding how alienation, identity, and ideology collide in the digital age. This is History 101, and this is the disturbing evolution of incel culture. The story begins in the 1990s with a Canadian woman known only as Alana. She created a small online community called Alana's Involuntary Celibacy Project, a place where people of all genders could talk openly about their experiences with rejection, loneliness, and feeling unlovable. It was a raw, empathetic corner of the internet, built on understanding rather than anger. But as the internet grew, so did the number of isolated individuals looking for answers. Forums became larger. The tone began to shift. By the early 2000s, the term incel was co-opted by a growing number of men who felt overlooked, ignored, or rejected by women. Over time, the inclusive nature of Alana's project was replaced by a much narrower demographic: heterosexual men who believed they were owed intimacy and resented a world that denied it to them. Alana eventually distanced herself completely from what the movement had become. What she started as a support group had twisted into something unrecognizable, a breeding ground for hate. To understand how incel culture evolved, you have to understand its language. Forums like incels.is or the now banned r/braincells on Reddit became breeding grounds for a unique and deeply troubling slang. They talk about chads and Stacies. A chad is the archetype of male success: tall, muscular, confident, and sexually successful. A Stacy is the stereotypically attractive woman who only dates chads. For many incels, this pairing symbolizes the injustice of the dating world, where average or low-value men feel permanently excluded from love, sex, and validation. This belief is framed through what they call the black pill, a term derived from the red pill, blue pill metaphor from The Matrix, but far more nihilistic. To be black-pilled is to believe that nothing will ever improve, that genetics and looks determine your worth, and that the system is so rigged against you that any attempt to change is futile. This is more than pessimism. It's a worldview, and it creates a self-reinforcing cycle of bitterness. The more users post, the more they echo each other's despair, feeding into one another's hopelessness and often encouraging misogyny and radical ideas. And when that despair festers long enough, it can explode into violence. In 2014, a young man named Elliot Rodger posted a series of chilling YouTube videos.
I don't know why you're not attracted to me. I don't know what you don't see in me. But I'll make sure you all pay for it.
In them, he described his hatred for women, his feelings of rejection, and his belief that he deserved romantic attention simply for existing. In a 141-page manifesto, he laid out his thoughts in disturbing detail, portraying himself as a victim of a society that denied him what he thought he was owed. Rodger would go on to kill 6 people and injure 14 others in Isla Vista, California, before turning the weapon on himself. Within incel communities, he became a twisted icon, not as a warning, but as a martyr.
And you do deserve it. Just for the crime of living a better life than me.
His manifesto and videos circulated widely online, and they inspired others. In 2018, Alec Manassian drove a van into pedestrians on a busy Toronto street, killing 10 people. Before the attack, he posted a Facebook status declaring that the incel rebellion had begun, directly referencing Elliot Rodger. Other violent attacks followed: a mass shooting at a yoga studio in Tallahassee, Florida, a deadly stabbing in Arizona, multiple university threats across North America. These incidents weren't isolated. They were connected by ideology. The attackers saw themselves as warriors in a gender war, striking back at a society that had wronged them. In response, several governments, including the US and Canada, began classifying some incel-inspired violence as a form of domestic terrorism. But identifying the threat was only the beginning, because the way incel culture spreads is more elusive and far more modern. In the age of TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels, incel ideology has found a new disguise. It no longer lives only in fringe forums. It thrives in short clips, viral trends, and meme culture. Social media algorithms are designed to reward content that sparks emotion. and few things are more emotionally triggering than rage and resentment. A teenager searching for dating tips might be served a video mocking women. That video leads to another, perhaps one blaming feminism for society's decline. Within minutes, the algorithm builds a feedback loop. What began as a search for advice becomes a spiral into gender-based conspiracy theories. Even when platforms ban certain users or communities, the content finds new life. Sometimes it's buried under layers of irony or humor. Sometimes it's shared by popular influencers who don't use the word incel, but amplify the same themes. One of the most prominent of those influencers is Andrew Tate. Tate doesn't call himself an incel. In fact, he presents the opposite image: wealthy, confident, surrounded by women. But for many young men online, Tate represents a kind of aspirational figure. He tells them what they want to hear, that they are victims of a feminist lie, that women only want status and power, and that to be respected as a man, you must be dominant, aggressive, and feared. Tate wraps misogyny in the language of motivation. He markets masculinity as conquest, control, power, and this message has proven alarmingly effective. He's been banned from nearly every major platform for violating hate speech policies. He was arrested in Romania on charges related to human trafficking and sexual exploitation. Yet, his videos continue to spread. But perhaps the most disturbing sign of how far this ideology has spread can be seen in the classroom. In 2025, Netflix released a scripted drama series called Adolescence, which explored the devastating consequences of online radicalization among teenage boys. Though fictional, the show was inspired by real events and painted a chillingly accurate portrait of how toxic ideologies are reshaping youth culture. In the series, students mimic misogynistic influencers, rebel against female authority figures, and isolate themselves in echo chambers of hate. The show received widespread praise for sparking conversations in schools and homes alike. And this isn't just fiction. Across the UK and beyond, teachers and youth workers have reported similar trends. Boys as young as 11 or 12 parroting the talking points of Andrew Tate, dismissing girls as lesser, and mocking teachers who challenge their views. Some schools have even held assemblies to address the influence of figures like Tate, recognizing that his videos aren't just watched, they're studied, imitated, and believed. Despite being banned from nearly every major platform and arrested in Romania on charges related to human trafficking and exploitation, Tate's content continues to circulate. Clips are reposted daily by anonymous accounts, stitched into TikToks, shared on Discord servers, and recommended by algorithms. He doesn't need a platform to spread his message. The internet is doing that for him. Incel culture no longer exists on the fringe. It's being smuggled into the mainstream, wrapped in the language of self-help, male empowerment, and rebellion. And it's shaping how the next generation of boys understands masculinity, relationships, and power. This is the alarming truth. Incel culture isn't confined to obscure corners of the internet anymore. It's being absorbed into the mainstream through the lens of masculinity, rebellion, and male empowerment. But beneath the memes, the violence, and the misogyny lies a deeper issue: a crisis of masculinity. Millions of young men today feel lost. They're growing up in a world where traditional gender roles are shifting, where economic insecurity is widespread, and where meaningful relationships are harder to form. They're bombarded with impossible expectations of success, dominance, and emotional suppression. And many have no roadmap to navigate it. Some respond with vulnerability, others with bitterness. In the absence of healthy role models, communities, or emotional education, many find solace in the incel narrative. It gives them someone to blame. It gives them a reason for their pain. But it also leads them down a path of isolation, anger, and sometimes radicalization. This is not a problem we can solve with censorship alone, because the issue isn't just the content, it's the void that content fills. Incel culture didn't start as a hate movement, it started as a cry for help. But over time, that cry was twisted by online forums, social media algorithms, and manipulative influencers into something dangerous. What began in obscure message boards is now bleeding into real life, into schools, into violent attacks, and into the psyches of millions of young men around the world. If we want to counter it, we can't just silence it. We have to understand it, challenge it, and most importantly, offer something better. Because behind every angry post is a real person, a lonely person. And if we don't reach them with empathy, education, and healthier ways to connect, the darkest corners of the internet surely will. This is History 101, and this is the story of how a support group became a movement of extremism. If you found this video insightful, please like, subscribe, and share it. There's always more to uncover.